Okay. So, and last time someone also asked if you have already played a game, how do you see the previous game you played? You can see my screen, right? So you can click on archives. So under archives, you will see all the previous games that you've played. Um, so let me show you a game maybe. Uh, yeah, let's see a game that I've played before. Oh, this is game, it's against a really highly ranked player. So he's 23,000. So he's like number is really top in the world. Number two in the world in blitz mode. So this is top-notch guy. Um, and so let's review this game. So I was black and I was white and he's black. Okay. Oh, let me see. Somebody answer something. Haven't I done? Oh, okay. Colors knows how. Okay, good. So I played this. Okay, so this is a typical opening that I like to play is uh pawn to c4. Okay, so c4. Um, and I'll tell you why. So as so one of the rule of thumb for playing fog of war is that you want to play safe. Okay, you want to keep your pieces in safest places. So that means you want to avoid any kind of threats possible. Okay, unless you intentionally sacrifice your piece. Okay, and and each piece has value in regular chess, as you probably know. So how many of you know? So let's say a pawn is 1 point, right? And how many points is a knight worth of in regular chess? Does anyone know? Three. Very good. Lucas, you got it. Yeah. So what about a bishop? It's also three. Yeah, very good, Lydia. So um and what about rook? Five. Yeah, exactly. And queen?
10.
Nine. Great. Yeah. And what about king? Probably nobody taught you that. So make a guess. Zero?
100.
Uh, huh?
100.
I can't hear you.
100.
100, yes. Or infinite, right? As many as you assign it to. Because if you lose your king, you lost the game, right? You lose the game. So king is the most important piece. And that means you cannot put king in any kind of danger. Okay. So in fog of war, you have to pay close attention to the open lines, open files that could aim at your important pieces, like your king. Okay. So for example, if I go, you know, pawn to D4 or D3, right? I would have to worry about one open line, which line would I have to worry about? If I move this, before I move this, I have to pay close attention to whether there's any attackers along this line, right? Or the opposite direction. So if my opponent could possibly have a queen or a bishop, oh, I assume everybody knows some basic movement rules of regular chess. Okay, so bishop goes diagonal, right? There are two bishops, dark square and light square. They go diagonal. So, and queen goes both diagonal and horizontal, and rook goes horizontal, right? And knight goes like L shape. Okay, and so in fog of war, like you have to pay close attention. So if your opponent could have a queen here or a bishop here, then you don't want to move this without knowing whether there's a piece there. Okay, does that make sense? And also you want to send out your pieces to detect information. Like for example, in the beginning, what I played is pawn to c4. So I did pawn to c4, and in the next round, the second round when it's my turn, this grid I can no longer see. Do you see that? So first when I okay, let me do my view only. You can switch to my view only. So when I go here, can you see? So I can see this grid, right? When I move my pawn to c4, I can see this because next move, I can move one step forward. So at the beginning, your pawn can move one or two steps, right? And after that, it can only move one step further. So this grid is now visible to me. That means there's nobody occupying it and I can move to that position next move, okay? But immediately after my opponent's move, I lost the visibility for that grid in front of me, which tells me my opponent moved something there. And now I have to guess what piece could that be, right? My opponent only makes one move, so what could it be? There's only one possibility. So my opponent moved one piece to this position. And what could it be? James? It must be
Pawn.
pawn, yeah, a c pawn, right? So my opponent basically moved the c7 pawn. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, if in case you don't know the convention, so from left to right, this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then from lower to upper from the white side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each pieces position is uniquely defined by, like, for example, this is C4 and this is C5 and this is C5 and this is C7. So it must be C7 pawn moving to C5. Okay. There's another possibility which a piece can occupy this position, which is, could somebody tell me? But that cannot be done in one move. It can be done in two moves, right?
Knight.
A knight, how does a knight jump here? Oh, okay. So you're
Never
saying
mind, never mind.
knight. Okay, goes here first and then yeah, that's possible, right? It's not very common move, but that's possible. 1, 2. Yeah, it can jump here. Or there's another possibility, it's more common choice that this could be occupied.
You open up your hold on. Your bishop.
Bishop.
So
Yeah,
black
so
bishop.
bishop, right? The opponent's dark square bishop could come here. But then it needs to open up this e pawn first, right? So that
Yeah.
takes two moves. So e pawn uh makes one step further or two steps, right? That's one move. And then the pawn can come here, right? So we have to do this kind of reasoning. So that's the fun of fog of war, is that you have to do some imaginations logically. And but since my opponent only makes one move, so the only possibility is the c pawn. Okay. So that's the reasoning I've done. So I know that it's a c pawn here. So and then I go queen to a4. Okay. So this move, what's the purpose? So I can see this line and this line, right? So my queen is peeking at my opponent's warriors here. Okay. And the nice thing about this move is your opponent cannot see me. My opponent right now cannot see me because they only see, above 5, 6, 7, 8, those lines. And the only possibility they could see me is, how could my opponent know there's a piece here? Think about it. So my opponent has a knight. If knight jumps out, it still cannot see me, right? So which of the opponent's piece could possibly detect that my queen exists here? James?
How about like the pawn?
Mm-hmm.
the pawn from
Which
B to
which
B3,
pawn?
pawn from B B
Yeah.
5.
Okay. So B pawn moving to this position, right? B5. But that's not a very smart move because it sacrifices the pawn, right? I can take it because this pawn B moving to B5 is not protected. So in Fogable, you want to like protect your pieces as much as possible, unless you want to sacrifice it, right? So you don't want to move your piece to a position where it's not protected. Let's put it that way, right? So that's one way my opponent could see me. But in order to do that, he may want to first move the C pawn here, and then this position is protected, right? So that's one way to see me. And there's another way to detect the queen. Can somebody tell me? James again?
You have you see if you like you find a
Pawn?
pawn, you find a pawn, and then so and determine which pawn, so you can see which gap it opens and see if it's the queen.
Sorry, which pawn you're talking about?
Yeah, if there's a pawn, for example, C2,
C2.
if,
Okay.
if you have a piece that can move near the pawn but not take the pawn, like a knight, if you can move there, then it can detect the pawn. And by determining which pawn it detects and where it is at, you can determine what piece is open or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm asking, like, when I move my queen to this position, because queen is highly valued, right? It's the most valued, in fact. Right? It worth 9 points in traditional chess. So I have to be very careful about the safety of the queen, right? I don't want to have any unseen threat to the queen. And I also don't want my opponents to know that my queen is here, right? So in Fargo, I want to hide myself as much as possible. So that's why I'm asking, how could my opponent potentially see my queen or attack my queen? I have to think about that. When I move a piece, important piece to that position, I have to evaluate the risk. I have to avoid any potential kind of threat to my queen or my important pieces, right? So usually in regular chess, we don't immediately move out queen because your previous chess teacher might have told you, right? Because queen or rook is so much more value than other pieces. You don't want to at the beginning move your queen easily. But Fogable is a little bit different. So in my current opening, I move immediately, like second move, right? I move queen to A4. But to do that, I have to know which of my opponent's pieces can create threat to me, right? So just now I said there's a possibility if my opponent move a pawn here and then another pawn here, then it can attack my queen, right? That's one possibility. And another possibility my opponent could immediately detect my queen in one move is, can somebody tell me? In one move, my opponent could know there's something here. Think about why my pawn lost visibility here, right? It lost visibility because there's opponent's piece here. So similarly, if my opponent moves a pawn, he could detect there's something here, right? If he moves the pawn here, the A pawn to A5, then it loses visibility. Then my opponent would know something is here. But to my opponent, this something, right? It could be a queen, but it could also be a pawn, right? So there are two possibilities. And that's something sometimes when I play black, I want to do that because I want to know if my opponent has a queen here. Okay. And that's important because if my opponent has a queen and I move the pawn, right, then it's going to be problematic. What's the problem? What is behind the pawn?
Queen?
The king is behind the pawn, right, in the diagonal. So the king is in the E file. So, and that's actually the purpose of why putting a queen here in A4 is if my opponent is not careful, he moves the pawn, then I immediately checkmate it, right? I immediately can capture the king. Okay. So that's why I when I play black, when I play white, I usually, oftentimes I would choose this type of opening. And let's see how my opponent responded. Okay. So I couldn't see what he did. And I jumped the knight. So when I jumped the knight out, you can see these two grids. Originally, it was fogged. I cannot see anything, but now I can see it. And my opponent did something I don't know. And I jumped on the knight. And this is similar in regular chess games. So you jump knight out first to gain, in this case, to gain visibility. And in regular chess game, you basically you control more grids, right? Because the knight can control 8 grids each knight. When it's in the center, in the middle. When it's on the side, it only controls 4 grids, or sometimes even less. Okay, so and okay, now I see his knight. My queen could see the knight. And I did this because I want to open up the visibility of the bishop, right? So in fog of war, in each move, I want to either control more positions and see more grids, or I want to increase the protection between my pieces. Okay, that's the fundamental logics behind the moves. Okay, now my opponent moves here, so my knight can see this. Okay, but I'm not worried because if he pushes the pawn, I have pawn, I can take it, or I have knight. So I'm sorry. So basically, this position now is doubly protected, right, by my pawn and by my knight. So I want to, and that basically avoids my knight from being attacked. Okay. Oh, let me keep going. Okay, but I still did this, and he did something, and I jumped the knight. Um, and I don't see anything. My opponent is hiding his pieces, and I sent my bishop here. But I thought there's a queen here, but the queen is gone. My opponent is really strong. Okay, now he sends his knight here. So his knight is basically, looking at all these positions, right? He also want to see the distribution of my pieces. Okay, so I immediately just take the knight because I don't want him to see my positions. So he took it with the pawn here. So you can see this type of change of visibility is very important because when this knight is taken, it could be taken by this pawn or it could be this pawn, right? So you want to pay close attention to which piece takes your piece, okay? And this is also important because when this pawn is gone, that means your opponent has an open file here. This open aisle, right? So in the future, he could put, rook. He could pile up rook, or rook, and it could be like rook, and then a queen, like battery here. Okay, that's really powerful. Do you know the concept battery? Battery means you aim all your pieces, like the rook, queen, all these pieces in the same direction. Okay. And that is really powerful. Okay. But anyway, so I retreated and he did this. Now he knows I have something here. Okay. So I send out my piece to basically to peek at this position. So if he has something behind it and he doesn't know, I have a bishop here. Like for example, he has a king here, right? And he pushes the pawn. Then I can take his king, okay, or his queen. Okay. My opponent is hiding really well. He's so good. He's number 2 in the world. Okay, now he sends his bishop up here. So his bishop was here, and this comes up from here. So bishop originally was here, right? So it travels to this position first, and then here. Okay, now I have to retreat. Oh, see, his queen actually is hiding here. So he takes. So this is again another rule. If your queen sees your opponent's queen, take it no matter what, usually. Okay? Because by taking the queen, when my opponent takes the queen, he immediately sees my positions here. So let's say if I'm black, right? I took this queen and I see a rook here. So very highly likely I know my opponent has castled on the king side, which I did. Okay. So it's very important to know where opponent's king is. So that's why when you see your opponent's king, when your queen sees your opponent's queen, immediately take it because that gives you more information of your opponent's pieces. And I take it. And now I lose visibility again. And I don't know what this is. It could be a pawn, it could be a bishop. And right now it's still a pretty equal game, right? So I lose. So you can see here, I lose a knight and a queen, and he loses a knight and a queen. But he has an advantage because he knows that I castled, but I still don't know where his king is. So having more information is a gain. So again, this is same value piece, right? Same value piece. When your piece says the same value piece, take it because to you it's an equal trade, but you gain more information. Well, I made a mistake here. I didn't trade it. I should have traded. So this is one mistake I made. I should have traded, and that way I would see this position. So when I take the knight, I would see this position. I would see this position. I would see this. Sorry. I would see this position and this position. Right. So I will have more information, and I should have done that, but instead I moved the bishop. And now the opportunity is gone. So I move the bishop. Okay. So before I move, you can see that before I move my bishop here, I move my rook here first because I want to protect my bishop. Because if he has a bishop here, right, or along this line, then he along this diagonal line, he could take my bishop, and that's why I want to first make sure my bishop is protected. Does that make sense? So you don't want to move your piece to a position where it's not protected, basically, and it could, endanger its life. And this is still an equal trade. So I'm still doing okay. I mean, I'm playing the number 2 in the world, and it's still pretty equal game. And now I move my rook here because I want to protect this pawn. So I want to add protection to my weak pieces. So usually the weak pieces are like the pawn that's behind. Okay. So like this pawn is behind and there's no other pawns protecting it. Right. This pawn is safe, is relatively safe because it has a pawn back top, right? So all these pawns are at the front has backups. So pawns protect pawns diagonally because pawn can eat diagonally. Okay. So the three front pawns are protected. And the only unprotected pawn is actually this back this back pawn. And that's why I send my rook to protect it. Okay. So this one is how many protector do I have for this pawn? Can somebody tell me? Is it 2 or more? How many pieces are protecting this pawn?
3.
3, exactly. So I have 2 rooks and king, right? Protecting. And let's keep going. See how I lose the game. Oh, so his piece come. Okay, now it's the same value piece, right? And I can take it. Should I take it or not?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Because by taking it, I would be able to see these grids, right? I will be able to see all these hidden information. So right now, these 3 are hidden. These 4 positions are hidden to me. By taking it, I will immediately gain that. But if I don't take it, my opponent will take me. And then he would know I have a king here. That's bad. You don't want your opponent to know where your king is, right? Okay, so I take it. And my opponent is hiding information really well. You can see. So all these positions are empty. I don't gain. I mean, I gain some information, but I don't know. I mean, I only know there's no pieces there. So this is a really high level player. Well, so I made a mistake here. Okay, so I took this pawn without knowing whether it has protectors. Okay, I was assuming it probably doesn't have protectors, but I was wrong. So I lost my knight. Okay, that's the first mistake, major mistake I made. So I traded my knight with a pawn because I put my knight in a dangerous position, right? I took a pawn that possibly has a protector. So now I move the rook to add protection for this pawn. But anyways, I just move back and forth, okay? And maybe I should have done that more. Yeah. So right now I'm just keep moving back and forth because I'm behind and I'm hoping if my opponent is doing the same thing, then we could end up in a threefold repetition. Does anyone know what the threefold repetition is?
Where you're,
I draw.
it's where you're evenly matched and you're like only one person somehow takes a piece.
Yeah. So basically, if the same pattern appears 3 times, then it's a draw. Nobody wins, nobody loses. Okay. But because I'm behind in material right now, I lost a knight. And I'm hoping that could be a three pawn repetition. And I'm wrong. So I lose visibility here. Does anyone know what this piece could be?
Queen,
Hmm?
queen.
A what? A queen? There's no queen. We already traded the queen, remember? So you can see your opponents. So these are what you have captured. So you captured a queen, 2 bishops, and a knight, and a pawn. And you've lost, 2 knights, 2 bishops, and a queen. Okay. So what piece could be for this one?
Bishop.
Bishop? There's no bishop. There's 2 you already captured both bishops. Right.
Oh, that's rook.
Rook. Well, okay. So in order for rook to get here, this file has to be open, right? But have you, I mean, you probably should know there's a pawn here. And by the way, you can go back. If you don't remember, in this game, you can go back. Okay. If I go back far enough, Like if I go back here, okay. So you see, there's a pawn here. There's a D pawn, D7, right? And in a few moves, this D pawn is gone. What could it be? There's only one possibility, right? So the D pawn now is at D6. Okay. So that means that a rook cannot easily come here. Does that make sense? At least it cannot go through this route. So it has to go through some other routes. And maybe from here and then here. Okay, that's one possibility because this C file is open now. But if the rook comes here first, you would know because your pawn would lose visibility, right? And that has never happened. So this pawn has never lost visibility. And that means a rook, see, this pawn is always has visibility here. And that means, actually there is at one point it loses. Okay. Okay. So even if a rook moves here, it still cannot move here. See? If the rook moves here, then it will be captured by my pawns. So that means rook actually cannot go through this route, right? That makes sense? Rook move here, but it cannot move to this position because it will be under attack. Make sense? So this piece cannot be a rook. What could it be? Your opponent has two rooks left and one knight, right? So it must be the knight. It cannot be the pawn either, right? The pawn is here. If the pawn comes forward, then I can take it with either pawn. I would see it. So this only possibility is actually the knight. And I should have known that. Okay, and this position, this piece, so it loses visibility and then I gain visibility. So what could it be? So you have to do this kind of reasoning, okay? And because remember, this is an open file, right? So this could be a rook, right? Or possibly it could be a king, but that's a dangerous thing. So I think I just run out of time here because I was thinking I cannot no longer do this because if I move here, I would lose my piece because this is a knight. So let's see what it is. Oh, wait, actually, this is a pawn. Wait, how could it be?
Oh,
Wait, hold on. Did I make any mistakes in my reasoning?
stole a piece from yours.
Huh?
I think it stole a piece from yours.
Oh, yeah, it's sorry. I forgot. Yeah. It's a pawn taken, yeah, going from here. Yeah, exactly. So it is a pawn. Um, so yeah. So now so this is a very high level game. Let me review it with you. So in open mode, okay? Now we can see everything. I did this. My opponent goes here, peeking at me. Oh, what is he trying to do? So now he can see my knight, right? He sees my knight here. Um, okay. Ooh, very tricky. So now he sees my bishop and he moves here to watch my knight. So, okay, my opponent is very smart because he knows the only threat to a queen is a knight. Does that make sense? In fog of war, what poses the most danger to a queen is the knight because the queen, like when a knight attack a queen, right? Let's say my knight is in this position, then my queen the queen cannot see it because queen only sees diagonally and horizontally. So So I think in fog of war, actually knight may be slightly higher value than bishop, especially when your opponent has a queen or a rook, because the knight poses a great threat to the queen. Okay. And okay, my opponent jumps. Oh yeah, we did this trade, remember? And I retreated. And my opponent knows I have a piece here. And that's why later he sends a bishop here, remember? He sends a bishop here to attack me. Um, okay, so when I moved here, so I thought my opponent has a pawn here, but I was wrong. Because the more usual possibility is this pawn moves up here. And I try to peek through this line, through this, okay, through this file, okay. So I did this again, but since he has a queen here, that's why he always avoid to have anything along this line, because he knows I have the bishop here, right? So, and now he's trying to attack my queen, and I come here, and he takes. So same value piece, whenever you see it, take it, okay? That gains more information. So by now he knows my rooks are so distributed, and there must be have been castled um, on the short side. Oh, he did this. And then, yeah. So, and I take, yeah, I should have taken this knight. Okay. I didn't. Okay. And then I made a mistake. After this equal trade, and after this, I made a mistake. I trade, and I made a mistake here. So, and that's what my opponent did right, is he tried to protect all the back pawns. You can see, like, this pawn is a back pawn. It's protected. This is a back pawn. And this is a back pawn. He always protect the weak pieces. Okay, especially knowing that I have a knight here. Okay, so let's review maybe a game with a weaker player. It's really strong. It's world level. Let me see if I have maybe this one. It's still a very strong player. Oh, I ran out of time here. Okay, so let's again review it from my side. Actually, I think this is still very high level. Let's review some easier games. I want to show you. How many moves do you think the shortest game would be? Like win in how many moves? Can someone make a guess? Like how fast can you win in Fog of War?
4.
4 moves? Okay, that's a good guess. Because in regular chess game, you probably have win in 4 moves before, I bet. But in Fog of War, actually, the fastest is 2 moves. Well, 3 moves. Do you know? Does anyone know how you win in 3 moves? Actually, that happened a lot to me. Oh, am I having some issues with my computer? Does anyone know? Okay, let me show you. So I'm white again here in this game. Okay, so I did the same move. So C4 and then queen to A4. So in this game, my opponent is smart. He did this uh 6 move. Okay. So the fastest game is if instead of C6, if my opponent goes pawn to D6, then what happens? my queen can immediately take his king, right? That's win by 3 moves. And that actually happens a lot in when I play with the lower ranked players. And you can try that when you play, you know, uh, oftentimes they don't know. They either, jump 2 steps and 1 step, and then you can take the king. That's very easy game. Easy win. Anyway, so this actually is a very good move against my opening, okay? And can anyone know why? So after this move, my queen is in danger, is in real danger. Remember which piece poses the biggest threat to my queen?
Rook.
Yeah, the knight, right? So which knight can pose like quick threat to this queen? Remember, my opponent has a knight here and a knight here.
How about like the one? How about the one at B?
So how does this knight threaten my queen?
Because the queen goes over like over the pawn, and then when it comes to the pawn, the knight will take the queen.
Yeah, so it can first come here, right? But to do that, he has to move this pawn first, right? This pawn has to move 1 step further. And then the knight can jump over to D7. And then it can jump over to B6. And that would pose a threat to my queen. That makes sense? So basically, in another 1, 2, 3 moves, my queen could be under threat. Okay. And if this knight wants to threaten me, then it has to go 1, 2, 3. Okay. But plus this move, plus this pawn moves 1 step further. So in order for the other knight to threaten me, it takes 5 moves. But for this one, it's quick. For this knight, it's quick. Okay. So now I have to be really careful. Okay. I have to start counting. Um. Oh, so he actually did this. So I'm less worried about this. So I just take with the pawn, same value piece, right? And he didn't take it because he takes it, I would just take his pawn. So he didn't. He did something else. So I just take it. Okay. And he takes with the knight. And so by now I assume you're familiar with your opponent's positions, okay? You have to know their original positions and where they, can move to. Okay, so he moves here. So same value piece, I should take it, right? I take it. So I know that his pawn, these 2 pawns hasn't moved. He has no piece here. So that means there's another pawn here, right? Okay. So and I also know there's a pawn here. Why there's a pawn here? Because my knight can see this grid is empty. Well, actually, this pawn was taken already, so it's already traded. Okay, so this is another rule of thumb. So after you take your opponent's piece, oh, actually, let me show you. Okay, when I take my opponent's piece, what happens next? I lost my bishop. So I was shocked. Like, what piece could take my bishop? Right? This is really fast. And that's because this this aisle is open, right? So it could be a rook or it could be a queen. So if you move the rook here and rook can come here. Or he moves, his queen here, right, to this file. Or queen to here. So, but anyways, I lost this piece and that creates immediate threat to my king. So I have no choice. I only have one move. Which move did I make? There's only one move I can protect my queen, my king, and I have to do that. So usually after you like my knight takes his knight, the next move I should retract. Okay, I should move my knight back to safety. But this is an exception because I lost a piece. That means somebody attacked my, you know, captured my bishop, and it must be either a knight, sorry, either a rook or a queen. So that poses immediate threat to my king. So I have no time to move my my knight now. I have to do something. What can I do? Anybody? I only have one piece that can protect my king. Anyways, in the interest of time, I think some of you know it. You just don't say. Yeah, I move my queen back. So that's the only way I can block this attack. Okay, even if it's a rook, I have to do that. Okay, and so he actually he could have taken my queen, right? And that so after he takes the queen, I have to capture with the king, and that means my king can no longer castle. After your king moved, right, you can no longer castle. Um, and I move my uh knight back, and I jump out. Did the usual. Oh, so when I do this, I want to make sure that it's protected, right? I have the knight protecting it, and I seize his bishop and the queen. And same value piece, right? Should he take me? So his bishop sees my bishop, right? Same value.
No.
No, he would be very stupid if he does that, right? Because his queen is under attack. They have to first move the queen away. And then now for me, it's my move. Same value piece. Should I take it? Yeah, most likely. See, by taking this one, I seize his rook here. So that tells me immediately what he has done, right? What has he done? Like what how did his rook move to this position? He probably has castle, right? He could castle or he could just move. Or he could just move his rook here. Okay. Anyways, so I okay. And I after this I lost my bishop. It could be the knight taking my bishop, right? Oh, actually it's not. It's a it's the queen. So I want to see if it's a knight. So I move my king up here. And now for him, it's the same value piece. Should he take me? Oh, he didn't. He probably should have. Anyway, so I just castled. And he also castled. Okay, so same value piece I take. He takes. And I immediately send my piece to detect what this piece is. So usually when my piece is gone, if I have a way to attack my opponent, I would do that. So it turns out to be a fork, right? So it means my pawn is attacking both. And he's very smart. So he knows that my pawn was protecting the knight. So perhaps the knight is no longer protected. So he takes my knight and I take the bishop. And he takes it. It is probably a rook or something. Or it could be this actually is a queen. Because when I go here, the queen is gone. Okay. See, this is very dangerous because my opponent could have a rook or a queen here that could attack my king. But you know. Oh, see, he has attacker here, so I have to block it. So I immediately want to protect my piece and move my king to safety. Actually, I run out of time. This is a really short game. So when you play, I would really recommend not doing 3-2 to begin with. So when you play, I would suggest you do 10, 15. So that gives you a lot of time to think about. Okay. So I think we should probably wrap up today. We cover quite a lot of basics, the fundamental way of thinking in fog of war. And as you can see, there's a lot of imagination and logic reasoning, a lot of fun, a lot of unpredicted moves. I think I encourage you to start playing, and then next time we can also review some of your games. Um, and that's how we become smarter and grow in this game. So I think today, let me see if I still have time to show you a little quick thing maybe. Um, yeah, these are long games. Maybe I'll show you next time. Are there any questions for what we have covered today?
Mm,
Maybe a quick question. This is a game I win. Um, questions? Okay. So if not, yeah, and I would suggest that you start playing, and you can also, if you have friends, you can also play together. But this has to be done on the internet. And we're gonna have a Chinese lecture pretty soon, so I have to probably sign off. But anyway, so and here you can review your game as well. So I've shown you the features. So here, when you review a game, you can choose different modes. So you can switch between black and white, or you can see everything. Like this is another game where I did this. So you can review it this way if you prefer. Um, that way you see everything your opponent has done. Um, see that's a very quick game. So he lost the so see that's his mistake because he didn't know whether my pawn is protected and he take it with the most important piece. And you want to avoid that. When you move your queen to capture something, you want to make sure it's not protected. So in this case, I have a defender. So he wanted to threaten my king. I understand that because he takes this pawn, he check my king, but he didn't know I could have a protector. He only knows that I have a knight. My knight is no longer here, but he didn't know I have a secret queen, a4 queen. That's why I like this, queen to a4 opening. All right, so good. I hope you enjoyed it and start playing the game and then we can continue next week. Or if you're interested in Chinese lessons, well, it starts now. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.